And welcome you to the call. Thank you for being patient with me. I was on another call with Beachbody Corporate, so I ran a little long, but I'm excited to chat with you guys today and kind of do a little kickoff here. So if this is your first boot camp with me, we do these every single Wednesday. There's a couple Wednesdays that I won't be able to do where I'm traveling. I go to Greece in May. So there'll be a couple, but I'll let you know about that. So, and then I just like to, sorry, I'm getting some dings here. I just like to kind of walk through, things that I learn in my personal development, or things that I see coming up in the group, or addressing stuff that I just see on social media, or, if you guys specifically have any questions for me. On this initial call, I kind of just like to set the groundwork. It's a little bit different though, because I've talked so much through the meal plan already. So this one, I'll talk about a couple things that I also, in addition to the meal plan, we'll dive a little bit deeper into that on this call, but also, my thoughts on like your progress and stuff like that. So first of all, I hope that you guys have started doing the workouts and that you're enjoying them. I hope you've started the meal plan. And I also just want to let you guys know, it's hard in the first week. That's just a part of it. And I know that sucks for people, because people think that because they see my lifestyle now on social media, that I have, treats and stuff that oh, Ashley gets results without putting in any effort. I'll join her and it will be fine. She'll finally share the secret with me where I can eat whatever I want and lose the weight that I want. It won't be hard. And that's just not the thing, because the reason that it's hard in the beginning is because we're kind of retraining your brain. We are developing new patterns and habits, and it's tough because your brain is on autopilot. And I've talked about this in one of the videos before, but there's just so many things that we do that are on autopilot where we just turn our brains off. And so if you are in the habit of saying yes to every time something sounds good and indulging every time a craving or something pops into your brain, then it's going to feel like a lot of resistance when something comes up that you think, oh, I want that. Or you go out to dinner with your family and normally you just order whatever, right? Oh, I'll just have wings, or I'll have nachos, or I'll just eat whatever my kids don't eat or whatever. If that's what you're in the habit of, it's you're creating this how do I say this? I'm trying to think of an analogy. So I don't know how canyons are formed, okay? Follow me on this. But a river, let's just guess how this happens. So a river, there's water that starts pushing through this crack, and it starts out as a stream, and eventually it's going over these mountains, right? And eventually the weight of the water is heavy. It starts carving out, and then there's these big canyons where the water has made it, and that just is comfortably flowing. So when you're starting a new habit, it's like you're starting to create a new cavern. Is that the right word? Is cavern a word? But I don't feel like that sounds right. Cavern. Hold on. But I've also been having a lot of brain fog lately. Cavern. What does that mean? A cave or a chamber. I don't know. I'm thinking about, like a mountains with a river running through it. So it didn't start that way. The mountains, it doesn't happen like that, right? So when you're creating habit, when you're starting this, you're starting where there is no crescent. What is the word, guys? Type it in the chat. What is the word I'm looking for? Crescent? Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay, you know what I'm talking about. I see heads nodding. So you're starting where there is no, let's just go with cavern, because now that you know what I'm talking about, let's just say that, but I don't think that's the right word. So there is no cavern, right? It's flat, and you're pushing against this. You are the water pushing against it. It's how, when you grew up, so I compared to Rev now. Oh, sorry, my computer. I compared to Rev now, where kids don't eat at this age. She's 16 months. She doesn't eat for pleasure. She doesn't eat because something just tastes good. She eats when she's hungry. And If she doesn't want it, she doesn't eat it. I could put, you know, like her favorite thing in front, like this morning, she's not feeling good. She has a cold. So I put her favorite fruit in front of her. And fruit's like something I can always count on her eating. And she was like, no, thanks. I don't want it this morning. So we all started like that. We all started eating for a purpose, creating a cavity. I guess you're creating a cavity, a hole, carving a path. Yeah. Crevice. I think that's the word. Oh my God. Yes. Crevice. Did I start by saying crevice? And it moved to cavern? Did I? Oh, I don't know. Guys, I did start by saying that. I don't know. My brain has been not working well lately. Whatever. So, it's so interesting watching her eat and like getting feedback from you guys on social media when I ask questions about Rev. They're like, oh yeah, babies don't eat for pleasure yet. Like they just eat for sustenance and fuel. So we all started like that. And then eventually as we grow up, we're like, ooh, I like that. So I'm going to eat that even when I'm not hungry because it tastes good. And then, you know, you eat till, and I remember doing this when I was a kid, like sugar. I would get a bellyache, right? And you start creating that crevice. At some point you start creating this is the habit that I'm in. Like it's a flat and you start just pushing your water into that. And then soon that is now a solid crevice where you are flowing freely through that. I'm going to eat what I want, when I want, whether or not I'm hungry, whether or not it makes me feel good. I don't even actually know if I want it. And maybe it's just convenient, right? That's the crevice. That's the free flowing river that you have created over years and years of saying yes to that. Now you're going to create a new crevice. Basically, right? You're creating a new habit of, no, I'm not going to eat that just because it's free. Like I think when I was in the corporate world, anytime food was free, it was like, oh, well, I'm going to have that because it's free food, right? Even if I don't want it, I'm going to eat it because it's free. Like there were things that I didn't even like ciabatta sandwiches. I've never been a huge fan of them, but if it was free, I was going to have ciabatta sandwich. And like donuts that are subpar and like shitty pizza, but it was free. There's something about free food. And it's the same thing with like buffets. The all you can eat buffets, you're like, well, I gotta get my money's worth, even though it all tastes like shit. There's like no flavor and it's not even really good. That's why cruise ships suck, man. The food, it's like you can eat whatever you want, but it's all shit. But you still eat as much as you can anyway. So it's just like that's the pattern that we're in, and you're going to create a new pattern. It's going to feel like you're pushing your water against like a stone wall, right? It's hard. It is really challenging for your brain because if you have been saying yes to the free food or yes to, you know, the burger on the menu or yes to the drive-through when you have a bad day or yes to the bottle of wine every night or yes to 7 Diet Cokes a day, those are free-flowing waters in the crevices you've created. You're now creating a new habit, and you're basically, what you're trying to do is take that free-flowing water and move it drop by drop into this new crevice. So it is hard. This is going to be difficult for you. It's supposed to be. Eventually, you wear that stone down and you start making it, like it starts becoming easier and easier for that water to flow through, and that will become your new habit. It's like, I used to, what was it? There was something I thought about recently where I'm like, oh my gosh, I used to love that stuff and I just don't ever eat it anymore because it sounds gross. Like, I don't know. I've never been like a fast food person, but there were let's say Taco Bell. I guess if I was forced to eat Taco Bell, I would eat Taco Bell, but I used to eat it a lot, and I used to eat a lot of fast food in high school and stuff. I actually thought it tasted good, but now I just know it doesn't make me feel good. Like over years, I've moved that free-flowing water into like, that's just not something I do. Not because it's not good for me, like it just doesn't, the only exception is Chick-fil-A really. Like Subway I used to love and it was like healthy, but it's actually disgusting. Like all of their ingredients are bad. Their meat is terrible. Like it's poorly processed. It's not organic. It's actually terrible. I mean, is it better than McDonald's Big Mac? For you, probably, yeah, but it's still not good. So that's actually a great example. So I used to think Subway was awesome. And now as I've grown, like I'm like, if I'm gonna go for fast food, I'd rather get Chick-fil-A where I know, it's good, like they use good ingredients and I feel like it's on the healthier end. Like Subway just grosses me out. Like all of those, I don't know what kind of animal products I'm actually eating from there, like how those animals were treated. And that's just something that matters to me now. But so you can retrain your brain. Like if any of you have, I've had people that have, soda habits at some point, and this might not feel like it's possible for you now, at some point soda will kind of gross you out. Like soda kind of grosses me out thinking about. There are still times I ordered a Diet Coke a couple months ago with a friend. She's like, what? I've never seen you drink soda ever. I've been friends with this girl for years and years and years. She's like, I've never seen you drink soda. And because I feel like if soda can erode a penny, what does that do to my insides? And I just don't, but sometimes it sounds good, So I feel like whatever your habits are now, it might feel crazy and like it's not possible that you would ever not want to have fast food or drink that whole bottle of wine or what, and sometimes you will. But you will start to be in the habit of what you want, like of the lifestyle that you want to live. And it will start to become easier to say no thank you to the free food when you work a job. Or like if any of you are nurses, they bring, or I feel like teachers in the break room, there's like always stuff people bring you guys. And it's just always, there's stuff there. And if you're in the habit of always eating that stuff, it's going to feel hard when you walk into the break room next and you see the free box of donuts to not take one, because that's the habit. That's where your water flows freely. Instead, you're going to feel this and you're going to have to make a decision that feels like you're going against the grain in that moment of like, I don't even really want that. That doesn't sound good. I'm not going to eat that. I'm not choosing that right now. Now, if they bring in from your favorite bakery, your favorite cupcake of all time, I don't want you to not choose it. I want you to choose it. I want you to be like, oh my God, that's my favorite. This is my lucky day. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I'm going to have that cupcake, right? But I don't want you to have the cupcake because it's free and it's there. I want you to choose it. And we just do things so much because it's on autopilot, or because it's convenient, or because we're like, well, I've been eating like this, or I've been eating like crap forever. Why would this one choice isn't going to change anything. And that's the other thing that I've been caught up in before of like, well, if I say no to this free donut here, but I still eat like crap the rest of the day, like, what's the point? Why, if I'm going to just eat willy-nilly all the time, why would I say no to this? The reason that you say no is because it starts by making those small choices. You start putting water towards that brick wall. Every time you make a choice, you start building that confidence. You start creating that new habit and that new pattern. So sometimes that's also why I don't believe in like you have to be all in or all out, or there's, that's why I give up the idea of perfection in this group. Because if you go to a party, and normally, at this party, if you ever go to a party, you would go balls to the wall. You drink all the drinks, eat all the things, you eat when you're not even hungry, you keep eating, you keep going back just because something's good, whatever. If that's how you normally do it. And now when you go, you have, 3 drinks and you have a piece of pizza, but that doesn't mean that you then eat everything else at the buffet, right? You don't eat, that's a win. Maybe you didn't plan on pizza that day. Maybe you went in with the best of intentions to that party. But if normally you would have eaten everything on that table and you would have left feeling miserable or guilty, and instead you had the piece of pizza because it sounded good and you had a small little brownie bite, and then you didn't have all the other things that you would normally have, that's a win, even if it's not on plan. I hope you guys get that like, you don't have to be perfect. If you are changing in any, like no matter how big or small the step is, if you take a small step in the direction of the lifestyle that you want, which is I am in control of my food choices, then going to a party where there's all this stuff out there that's free and normally you would go crazy at it and you are in control of what you're consuming, even if you didn't plan on consuming any of it, that's still a win, right? Or say you bring your lunch to work and you have all the intention, and all of a sudden, pizza party or we're catering Jimmy John's. So everyone's like, oh, okay, put my order in, I'm going to have that. And then normally, because you were off plan at lunch, you would write the rest of the day off, and you don't write dinner off and you eat your healthy dinner that you had planned. That's a win. It's not a loss that you didn't follow plan at lunch. The win is that you are mentally saying, because I didn't eat on plan at lunch, I'm not, like, it doesn't mean that I'm a failure and I'm not writing the rest. That is the win. The win is that you are gaining control of your mind and breaking that mental cycle of I have to be 100% in or 100% out, because you're leaving 99 other percent, like other places on this spectrum out. If you're either 100 or 0, There's a whole range in between that you have been disqualifying for years. So I want you guys to really be thinking about that and understanding like a win is a win, and understanding that you're also it's going to be challenging. It is going to be difficult in the beginning. It's meant to be. It starts getting easier and easier the more you work on creating that habit that you want, right? So every time you have a bad day and you're like, God, I could use a drink. And then you say, no, I don't need the drink today. If I still want the drink come, 2 days from now and it feels, then I will choose to have the glass or two of wine, right? Or I will wait until date night on, like, I can do this. It strengthens your confidence every single time. And then you feel proud of it. And that also helps you not feel guilty when you do consume it, because it wasn't an immediate indulgence. It wasn't immediate gratification. It was thoughtfully chosen that on Friday night, I'm going to have, split a bottle of wine with my husband, instead of, oh God, I had a rough day, and consuming something out of stress. So like, if you have plans to have this thing for dinner and work was shit and your boss was mean to you, or a project fell apart or something like that, and you're like, I don't even want to cook tonight. I'm going to go to the fast food drive-through. Okay. What that does is reinforces the habit that you don't want. Now, if you don't want what you made for dinner, if you don't want the veggies in the stir fry, go home and make some mac and cheese or something, right? Go home and make something, or choose a different fast food item or something. But you have to break the cycle of when I had a heart, like eating out of emotion and not taking care of what you actually want. Because what would actually make you feel good at the end of a long day is waking up the next morning like, man, yesterday was tough, and I still stuck to what I wanted to, and I feel amazing today. Because that gratitude in the moment, that convenience of having that fast food burger or ice cream cone or whatever it is that's your vice, having that in the moment feels good. And then the next morning, we start telling ourselves like, oh God, I can never do this. Like, it's every single time, I just always fail. Instead of like the next morning, feel like the high that you feel the next morning or that night going to bed when you didn't cave to your emotions, that high that you have is way, way, way higher than the high that you would have when you ate that food, right? Now, I'm not saying so the difference is, if you're like, God, I had a rough day, I'm going to go through the drive-thru, scrap this plan, you feel like shit. But if you're like, God, I have a rough day, I want to go through the drive-thru, nope, I'm going to go home and I'm going to eat this thing. But if you continue thinking about it on Friday or whatever, on Thursday or Tuesday, whatever you want to, Sunday, you're like, you know what? I haven't stopped thinking about this Chick-fil-A spicy chicken sandwich in a week. Shoot, I probably shouldn't have said a specific thing, because then I'm planting the seed of something you guys will want. That happens to me all the time. Someone like says something, I'm like, I can't stop thinking about it. I cannot stop thinking about that chicken sandwich. But so you can't stop thinking about it. You can't stop thinking about it. Then you can choose it. Then you can consciously choose to go consume it. And then you get to let go of the guilt, because the guilt comes when you did something you don't want to do. But if you didn't indulge that craving the second it comes up, or because you had an emotional day, if you stop eating solely with your emotions, then the high that you get when you do consume it is really high. It's that high. So you're still consuming it, but one high is way higher because you're choosing to consume that instead of doing it out of self-loathing or laziness or sadness or something like that, right? This high, it only tastes good right when you're eating it. The high of choosing it tastes good when you're eating it, and it feels good after too, and you get excited for it. And that's a huge gap. Like there is so much growth that needs to happen between the you of today and the you of feeling fully in control of food. And growth is painful. It's uncomfortable. I mean, you're creating new habits and patterns. So I want you to understand that when things get uncomfortable, like the tendency, I hear all the time people like, oh, I could never eat like that, right? Like this thing that people say, I couldn't eat like that because I liked food too much. It's like, yeah, we all like food. Everybody likes food. It's just, that's just an excuse we tell ourselves for like why we can't diet. Meanwhile, we're beating ourselves up mentally inside. And I used to do that when I would want to, I was living same size body. I've always pretty much been the same size, except for when I was pregnant. I never really had like a whole lot of weight to lose, but I hated my body. I always thought that I needed to be smaller. So when I would be at work and someone would bring their lunch, and we had a free, you know, we had catered stuff all the time when I was working. Someone would bring their lunch and they would eat this like healthy thing, and I would be eating the carb heavy whatever that wasn't like really what I wanted, but it was free and it was there. I would be like, oh my gosh, just have this. Like, just like, I would push my guilt onto them when really what I wanted was like, man, I wish I had prepared my own shit. I wish I took my health as seriously as there. But I made myself feel better by trying to make them feel bad. Or in my head, even if I didn't say it out loud, I'd be like, gosh, she's so strict on her diet, right? Like somehow bringing her down to make me feel better. And, oh, that's okay. Sorry, someone sent me a message here. So, yeah, so I feel like, you know, it's the stories that we're also telling ourselves, and that's that self-talk that's really important. And so it's not that you can't have anything. It's just you need to be in control of choosing when you do have it so that you feel okay when you consume it. And again, like I said, growth is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable and it's difficult and it's going to feel challenging, but it does get easier. And so you don't have to tell yourself, like when those emotions arise of there's the free thing in the break room that you don't really want, but it's there and it's free, I'm going to have it, of like, that this feels hard. It feels like uncomfortableness sitting inside me that you're like, this is why I don't diet, because I hate feeling like I can't have something. Get that out of your brain and realize you can have that. Do you want it? Because if you wanted it, you probably would have gone and bought it. You probably would have made a point to get it instead of just, I didn't wake up this morning thinking about the Krispy Kreme donut. Hadn't thought about a Krispy Kreme in forever, but now that it's here in front of me, yeah, I really want it. Like, that's not really true. It's not really true. It's just a habit that you're in. So you stop telling yourself that you can't have things because you're dieting. Not on this plan. This is not a diet. You can have whatever you want. The reason that I say that you can have whatever you want when you want it is because if you really start making decisions from a place of health, from making a conscious choice, you will find that you don't want all those things, like the I love food so much I could never diet things, right? Like you will find that you don't want that all the time because it doesn't make you feel good. Like I know when I'm eating like shit, I feel puffy and bloated. My clothes don't fit me the same. And this, again, has nothing to do with the outside appearance. I just don't feel good. I feel lethargic. My joints start to ache. I start getting acne. I don't sleep as well. I need more caffeine to keep me up throughout the day. Like there's just so many other things that make me not feel good. And we blame it on the outside. And we're like, we're so, fat and gross and when really like our inside is the ugliest part. So in mental, mind and body. It's not that you can't have something because you're on a diet. You're choosing to hit a reset button and regain control of your choices. But you can have what you want when you want it. It really is. That's why I say if you take care of the mind, the body takes care of itself. It might not shed the weight as fast as you want it to, but I'm not about that. I will never promise you. I don't care what you guys can do in these 3 weeks or 7 weeks of this program, or if you're doing Transform 20, what is that, 8 weeks? Because some people are doing Transform 20. I don't care how much weight you lose. What I care about is the freedom and the space that you're creating in your brain, the control that you're creating about your life. Because if you can gain control and you can create that freedom in your mind, then the weight it's going to naturally come off because you're not going to choose all the shit that you normally choose. You're not going to choose to, eat out of self-loathing. You're not going to choose all the crap. Like sometimes you'll go out and it actually will sound good to order a salad with your margarita. You know that you can have a margarita and like a healthy entree, or like whatever your drink is. Like it's not, well, if I'm going to have a beer, then I'm going to have all the shit food also. It's like you can have a beer and enjoy it with healthy food. Or, vice versa, whatever. You could have a healthy entree and have dessert. Like, it's okay to do those things. It doesn't have to be the same with like the lifestyle is not 100 or 0. Your meal doesn't have to be 100% okay or 0% okay, right? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I just want you guys to be thinking about that, those concepts as you go forward in this, knowing it's going to get easier. And don't tell yourself that I can't have this because I'm dieting and this is why I don't diet and I hate it, I'm miserable. Those uncomfortable feelings are meant to come up. That's where growth happens, outside of your comfort zone. Growth is uncomfortable. It's meant to be, but it gets better and better. And every single time you make one of these choices, you build confidence in yourself. So I've said this before, and you will hear me say it, over and over again, but the number one way to build confidence in yourself, because a lot of you are coming to me, you might look confident on the outside and I know when I was suicidal, people had no idea that I was suicidal and I hated myself as much as I did, because on the outside, I put on a real peppy, positive picture, right? But inside, the things that I would tell myself. Someone told me yesterday, he was like, we missed you on the cruise. We didn't go on this Beachbody trip. So we missed you on the cruise. And he was like, what I realized is the party just isn't the same if Ashley Molstead's not there. He's like, I'll just say it's a better experience when you're there, which is one of the nicest things that anyone could say to me. And I told him, it was so interesting because I worked at Applebee's. It was my favorite, Beachbody's my favorite job. Then I think Nike and Applebee's were tied. I worked at Applebee's for years. It's like my favorite. And one day I looked on the board and there was like the seating chart. So it tells you like what section you cover. And there was notes. And the note says like Ashley equals joy, or Ashley equals something. Ashley equals happiness or whatever. That was like the note for the shift. And I was like, what is this? And he was like, well, you're here. And he's like, and everybody seems to be in a better mood when you're working. And that's like such a nice thing to say. And I didn't believe him. I was like, bullshit. Like, because I hated myself so much, right? So the self-talk, that's the stuff that it's hard. That's the hardest. You got to work on this more than anything else. And when you get control of your brain and you stop beating yourself up about the way you look or a choice that you make or, how your clothes fit or anything, like things like that, when you stop beating yourself up and you give yourself a little bit of grace, and it starts small. It's not an overnight thing. Talked about this before too, where self-love is like learning a new language. So if you join this group and all of a sudden I was just speaking French to you, that wouldn't compute. You'd be like, I don't understand what you're saying. This doesn't make sense to me because you're speaking another language. And if I just kept talking about it and simplifying it and teaching you it and all these things, and I would teach you little phrases in French, these little things that you could start practicing, then you would start learning a little bit of French. That is self-love. It's not an overnight thing. And there will be times where you will start speaking more in self-love than in this place that you're in now. And you'll still forget sometimes. And you'll go back to this, this language of self-hate. And sometimes it doesn't have to be self-love or self-help. Sometimes it can just be neutral, So there's a whole spectrum of all kinds of things, but I think it's just, we focus as much as we can up here, which also is why, which I haven't talked about yet, but I'm going to upload a file with all kinds of personal development recommendations. The thing that's changed my life more than anything else is personal development, consuming 10 minutes of something positive every day, because our minds are the most powerful things that we own. So if you don't tell your mind where to go, it's going to continue going wherever it's gone. And it's not always a happy place. It's not, it can be very negative, and it can be like very, self-hating or whatever, just like, and something happens to you and you immediately go to the negative of that. And, but personal development, I call it like fitness for your mind. So the same way that exercising every day is fitness for your body, personal development is fitness for your mind. And this to me is more important than even fitness for your body. Because your mind controls everything. It tells you to be afraid of things, like afraid of other people's opinions, afraid of being successful, afraid of failing, afraid of having that food because it's going to send you on a spiral. It tells you that you can't go in and talk to your boss or ask for that raise. It tells you that you're a shitty mom. It tells you to not trust this person, or like your brain controls everything. People ask me, like in my business, I break all kinds of records in Beachbody. And so people always want me to train on it. Like, how are you doing that? And I'm like, Honestly, it's just because I believe that I can. I believe that I can help. Like, there is no limit on this. And I think I believe that because I've learned how my mind has taken me from someone who was suicidal and wanted to kill herself and didn't think, she deserved to be on this planet, to somebody who now I know my worth and my life matters and I make a difference. Like, that's a huge transformation. And I'm the same person today as I was then. I just believe differently. So, our minds are just, it's everything. It controls your entire day. And you can choose, if something shitty happens to you, you can choose to let it ruin your day. It is a choice. Feelings are emotions. They're emotions, which means whatever emotion you want is available to you now. So if I say like, would you rather be thin or happy? People, a lot of times they're like, well, isn't that the same thing? Like, I feel like I would be happy if I were thin. But that's not the thing. That's not the same thing. Happiness is a choice, and it's available to you right now. So is confidence, but so is negativity or being pissed off. Those are choices. Those are feelings. You're choosing that. So you can say, to set the intention of like, I'm going to be real proud of myself today. Right? I'm just going to take care of me today. And I'm not going to think about how much longer I have to go. I'm just going to take care of me today. And that's why I also put the gratitude post up every day. I want to know 3 things that you guys are grateful for, because I want you to be practicing that positive mindset. Because it really, if you can get control of this, everything in regards to your body will just take care of itself. Now, I have been smaller than I've been right now. Like, physically, my body has been smaller and more fit, but I wasn't happier. When I was smaller and more fit, I still felt fat and gross. I still felt like I had work to do. And this feels like the body that I live in now feels like the body that I'm meant to live in, because my lifestyle doesn't feel hard. I feel like I could be smaller, but I would have to give up a level of happiness that like date night brings, or celebrate. Like, we're going to a baseball game with my whole family this Saturday, and I would have to like just not enjoy a hot dog at the ballpark so that I could have a little less body fat. That's not a life I'm interested in living. Years ago, I would have done that. I'd be like, no, I'm dieting. I can't do that. But I will choose it, and I'm not going to, just because I've got that coming up doesn't mean like this whole week is a wash, or that like that's on Saturday. So I'll eat healthy. Like, I'll eat whatever I want, I'll have my shake and I'll have my veggies and protein before the game. Like, I don't write off the whole day because I'm going to the ballpark that night with my family and I know I'm going to be drinking and eating. Because like I just don't feel like my lifestyle is hard to sustain anymore. And my goal is not to be the smallest me. My goal is to be the healthiest me mentally. And the healthiest me mentally means I'm pretty healthy physically too. Because I do choose like things do sound, I want to eat healthy food a lot. But I also want to treat myself to things that make me feel extra happy to be alive, that taste really good, and then not have guilt after it. So that is why personal development is so important. I want you guys to pick a book, start either reading or listening to it, 10 minutes a day just to start. You'll start to crave it in the way that exercise, like it will feel, again, this is another thing that it'll be another habit you're creating, and it will feel like work in the beginning. You're like, I don't want to do personal development. In the beginning, when I started doing it, I had to set a timer, like 10 minutes before, and then I'd reward myself with being able to scroll social media after. So I did it when I was going to bed. I'd be like reading a book and I set a timer. And then I just started to crave it, like exercise. So like when you're starting to create the exercise habit, it feels like a lot of energy and effort you're putting towards, I need to do this, I need to push play. And then you start to crave it because you love the high that you get after, right? You feel like a badass during it. You see how much stronger you get every single time. And you get the endorphins, like when you're finished, and it's amazing. So you start to crave your exercise. It's going to be the same thing with personal development. So it won't feel like something you crave in the beginning, but I'll put a list up. One of my favorite books, and I refer to it as my Bible, is You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. So if this is your first boot camp, get that book. But I'll put up a list of some other ones. And then also in the guide that I posted, there is a page in there for personal development as well, of like podcasts and things based on different things. So there's like thing for food, personal development, things for like confidence and whatever. There's all kinds of things. Yeah. Girl, stop apologizing. I have not read that or listened to that one yet. But Girl Wash Your Face, her first book by Rachel Hollis, was also one of my top recommendations. I love it. Yeah. So I never come into these things with an agenda or a schedule. I'm like, what do I want to talk about? And then I just kind of roll. So I know sometimes it's hard to like follow my trains of thought. But hopefully that all made sense. And that's kind of, and the only other thing I want to touch on this call is measuring progress as we go. And that I asked you guys to take your before photos and measurements yesterday. It's a requirement to stay off the scale. It's not just a recommendation, it's a requirement that you stay off the scale during this group. Because I've seen it happen so many times that people start doing things and they feel so good, and then they step on the scale and the wind completely gets let out of their sails because they didn't lose as much weight as they wanted to, or, you know, it hasn't moved at all, or maybe it's gone in the opposite direction. But meanwhile, you felt really good, your clothes are fitting better, you have more confidence, you have more energy, you see you're getting stronger in every workout, and then that number on the scale completely deflates you. And there really is no reason that you need to know how much you weigh. It's an arbitrary number. Nobody else knows it except for you and your doctor. You don't walk around with a sign around your neck. No, it's not going to be in your obituary or on your tombstone. And also, it's not a very good indicator of health. It just doesn't. Like, I've always been on the high end of the BMI chart. I've always weighed heavier because I have a lot of muscle mass on my body. So I'm always like borderline obese, always. I've always been on the high end of like being close to obesity, within like 5 pounds of obesity or something. And I'm a pretty healthy person, I feel like. But then there's somebody who is just genetically very thin, and they, you know, survive off of a diet of Diet Coke and Taco Bell. I'm definitely healthier than that person is, even if I have a higher like body fat percentage, right? So weight is just not an indicator of health to me. You won't see me celebrate your weight loss as you have them. What I will, like, if you want to share your weight loss, because I know that's important to you guys, I'm going to work on it not being important to you guys. But if you want to share your weight loss, then it's also a requirement to make sure that you're sharing an on-scale victory with it. Because I don't give a fuck how much weight you lose. I don't care how much you weigh now. I don't care how much you weigh in a year. I don't care how much you weigh at the end of this group. I don't care about it at all. Because it doesn't mean that you're doing the right thing if you lose weight. You could be doing completely wrong and in a way that's not sustainable and is not honoring your health. So I'm not going to celebrate your weight loss, but I will celebrate you showing up for yourself, your clothes fitting looser, so you're getting small, you're building confidence. I'll celebrate you wearing shorts for the first time. I'll celebrate your wedding rings being able to fit again. I'll celebrate you look in the mirror and not feeling like catching your reflection and feeling like, ooh, who's that? Oh, that's me. I will celebrate all those things. So it can be about your looks if you want, but I want it to be more about confidence and less about what your relational gravity is. Oh, music. What your, gravitational pull is to this planet. So that's it. That's all I have. I am going to end this call. I'm just looking through some of these comments here. And get the recording posted up. And so if you weren't able to hop on the beginning or whatever, but I want to thank you guys for joining me this week, and hopefully this helped. And it's just, again, I'm just starting to teach you this kind of language. So you will be fluent at some point, maybe in a couple weeks, probably in a couple years. I feel like I'm pretty fluent at self-love now, and I still slip up and forget, how to speak to myself sometimes in this language. So it takes work. It's a constant practice, but you just got to show yourself grace as much as you can and question the thoughts as they come up, those negative thoughts, and ask yourself if that makes sense or if that's really true. So have an amazing Wednesday, you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.